The Real Adriana, The Murder of Mary Bari. Okay, so I'm going to start off this by saying, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the show. Anyway, so we all adore the beloved gun mole, Adriana Lacerva, and her tender love of Christopher, or should I say Christopher, and her looks and her kindness and her naivete and that accent, Maron.
But he keeps on about everything. Oh, Maron, Jesus.
As we all know, in Season 4, she's turned into an informant. She begins snitching for the FBI, much to her reluctance. This, of course, comes to a head after Matouche murders an irate drug customer in The Crazy Horse. Once the FBI puts pressure on Adriana, she folds and confesses to Christopher, which of course sets off a terrible chain of events for her. I don't know if the writers originally thought this would happen to Adriana, but perhaps looking for a place to take her storyline, they likely pulled once again from Mafia history. In the 1960s and 1970s, the Profaci-Colombo family went through a series of shakeups and internal struggles, most notably involving the Gallo brothers. Much of this storyline was actually used in The Godfather Part 2, but that's another story. After a series of crosses, double crosses, and maybe even triple crosses in the early 1970s, a man named Carmine Persico came to rule the family. He had two brothers who helped him out, Alphonse Alley Boy and Theodore, or Teddy, Persico. As the 1970s became the 80s, Persico reign continued, but it was not without controversy and trouble. Carmine himself had been shipped off to prison, and in fact, over his mafia career, spent an awful lot of time in prison. This extended to his brothers, in particular Alphonse. Alphonse was a successful mobster making tons of money through loan sharking and other activities. Like most successful mobsters, he had a wife, a family, and a mistress. A local Bensonhurst girl named Mary Bari. Reportedly, she started dating Alley Boy when she was only 16 and still in high school. Of course, Alphonse showered her with gifts and trips, providing an amazing life. She stuck with him even though she knew she would always be his mistress, and even got a tattoo to commemorate him on her butt. Sticking it out for 11 years with the volatile mobster, Mary's mother tried in vain to keep her daughter from consorting with the Persicos, telling her daughter they were bad people. Is this sounding familiar?
Sure. I bet it was in Zane's window this morning. I bet there's bits of broken glass in it.
Ma, would you leave us alone, okay?
Adriana, I hear you sobbing in your bed at night.
Ma!
When you get hurt next time, this door is close to you.
The cops came after Persico following an attempt by him to collect on a usurious loan. Instead of facing the music, Persico split and went into hiding. He sent his men to Mary's house and took back all the expensive gifts he gave her. Perhaps she began to see why her mother warned her away. Alphonse disappeared from her life and left her without a steady source of income. After a year or so out of work, she got a call from Carmine Sessa, a high-level Colombo member offering a job as a waitress in his club. What Mary had no way of knowing was that a corrupt FBI agent had warned that Mary Bari was speaking to police about where Alphonse was hiding. The truth of this accusation has never been substantiated. Regardless, Gregory the Grim Reaper Scarpa dispatched his men, including Sessa, to set about killing Mary Bari. Now, usually the Mafia would not kill a woman. That is a big no-no, supposedly, but it has happened a few times over the history, and this is one of those occasions. Scarpa sent a mobster named Tony Muscles to pick up Mary at her mother's house and take her to a club for a job interview. Just in the same way Silvio came for her in a friendly manner, Carmine Sessa put his arm around her and pushed her to the ground, where she was shot by Greg Scarpa and others. Her body was dumped below the elevated train tracks on McDonald Avenue in Bensonhurst. The cops showed up at Carmine's club asking about her, as Mary had told someone about the interview, but Carmine gave nothing up. The information only came to light when Carmine became an informant following his arrest years later. Either way, the tragic story of Mary Bari has a great deal of parallels with that of Adriana Lacerva. I'm certain the writers considered this story when creating the demise of Adriana in Season 5. It would also make sense because writer Terrence Winter, who wrote Long-Term Parking, was from South Brooklyn and likely knew these legends from his time growing up there, having worked, as I've said before, in Paul Castellano's butcher shop, and even knowing Tony Sirico's legend, the actor who played Paulie, as a tough guy in the neighborhood.